Welcome, everybody. This is the Rec Center Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Zavala. I am bringing you and connecting you with individuals that are making strides within health and wellness. Today, we have an amazing individual. We have one of my colleagues, a great professional. He's an entrepreneur, family man, and he enjoys mountain biking in the outdoors. We have our buddy here, Nick Winters, a.k.a. Slow Cheetah, coming in from Wenatchee. Slow Cheetah, man. Where did that name come up from?
Yeah, so that's kind of like a self prescribed name, I guess, in terms of trail names. Basically, it came about where I kind of had the look down of like a fast mountain biker, but really wasn't when it came to actually putting it out there. So that's where the joke kind of came from.
Man, I love it. Slow Cheetah. I could just picture you. You know, you look fast, but maybe you're not going as fast as you think you are.
Yeah. Basically, I passed the look test, but I'm always the caboose of the trail. So
I love it, man. So Nick, I'm happy to have you on the show. This is our first episode of the Rec Center Podcast. The reason why I brought you on here is because those 4 topics that I just hit, man. I got a quick story to tell you. So when I started at Wenatchee Valley College 2 years ago, one of my bosses said, hey, if you have anything that's web design, graphic design, you need some flyers printed, you need anything, Nick Winters is your go-to guy. And it's crazy because now we are here, a couple years into it, and I feel like I hit you up all the time and you're really quick at responding and cranking out some cool product. But the one thing that I didn't know about you was, as I started getting to know you and building that rapport, was you're an amazing family man, but 2, you love being in the outdoors and mountain biking, and that's what we're going to hit today. So you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you graduated from, where you went to college, where you work, etc.
Yeah, so born and raised in Wenatchee, went to Wenatchee High School, and just went to WSU for college, came right back and have lived here and plan to live here for probably the rest of my life. Been pretty outdoorsy, skier, snowboarder, skied at Mission Ridge since I was 4. Just been at Wenatchee Valley College since about 2013, I think. We've been putting in some miles there, and a great place to work, as you know, and just really like the environment there. Live pretty close to the Sage Hills trailhead, so I get in my walks and mountain biking and all that. So yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Washington State University, one of my favorite. Want to know my favorite thing about Washington State University?
Let's hear it.
Cougar Gold cheese, baby.
There you go. Got some in my fridge actually right now.
You really? Good stuff. Yeah. Well, that makes it super convenient, man. I've had a great time working with you, and I haven't seen you for a while in person, but I'm happy to have you on the show. And then, so it makes sense. So you're right off the Sage Hills trails, which is super amazing because it's great mountain biking. Your close proximity to the foothills of Wenatchee. Do you spend quite a bit of your time out there?
Yeah, I in the initial days of when we moved to our house, like we were up there like every evening, it seemed like. Now probably not quite as much as I'd like to because we have a little kid, but yeah, it's really nice how convenient it is. If I need to just get out and burn off some stress or just get out for a little bit, I can just race up there and I'm there in like 3 minutes, so it's pretty nice.
That's awesome. And you got a second one on the way, right?
Yeah, we got number 2 coming in here end of July, so we're pretty excited.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, man. That's super exciting. And one of the things that I like to share too is, a lot of people struggle with health and wellness and how to fit that in with their day-to-day. So just kind of talk to us and like tell us what your day-to-day at Wenatchee Valley College looks like, especially with some of your side hustles that you have, your family, and how that works with health and wellness.
Yeah, so primarily I'm at WVC doing all the website stuff, just taking care of that, graphic design. So that's basically my bread and butter, and anything else on the side, I'll do a little bit of freelance branding and web design through my little side hustle, Pixel to Press, and that's been pretty fun. I like to do that just to change it up a little bit, because looking at the same style guide every day all year long, it can kind of get you after a while. So I like to help small businesses out and organizations where they need some help, and just kind of changes it up a little bit. So yeah.
Most definitely. And for those of you guys that don't know, and this is your first time listening to Nick Winters, he's amazing. He has some amazing stuff. So if you want to contact him, you can contact him, and I'll provide his social media stuff at the end of the episode. That way you can reach out to him directly to ask questions about his health and wellness, or what he's doing as an entrepreneur, or how he balances everything out. So with your health and wellness goals, so you got family, work, when does the health and wellness aspect come into play? Do you just kind of, include the family, or just go on by yourself?
Well, my wife and I both got into mountain biking about the same time, and we used to do it pretty avidly together. But of course, once you start having kids and whatnot, you kind of have to pick and choose where you're going to go together. So we get out kind of separately anymore. I know once we have the second one and she's able to, we'll get out on some more rides together. But yeah, right now I tried to incorporate more workouts and all of that into my daily schedule. So I would go to the rec center at noon and try to do that during my lunch break. Obviously now you can't with the whole COVID thing, but anymore now that I'm working from home during this time, I'll just go like right after work. I'll just race up there on my bike and go ride Sage Hills, or just go up Number 2 Canyon and ride Twin Peaks, which is awesome. Yeah. So I'll try to get at least one ride in a week, which is pretty decent, but I'd like to get in more if I could.
Yeah. And I just remember seeing you coming to the rec center all the time. So would your normal day look like, work, lunch break, try and get a quick, 30-minute in, and then go home, spend some family time, and then hit the trails? Or is it just kind of like all over the place?
It's kind of whatever I can get,
Yeah.
And back when we were at WVC, it was mainly just try to go to the rec center at least 3 times a week during lunch break. And I'd usually hit the bike, I'd say for 30 minutes every time. And then that really helped out actually doing that in the winter time, because I noticed that when I got back on the trail this year, I was able to stay ahead of people instead of fall behind quickly.
Yeah.
So that was nice. So yeah, it's been pretty good, but now it's basically just at home workouts and just get out right after work, right before dinner time. I get out and go hit the trail.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I can't wait to get into talking about, a little bit more about mountain biking and, your biggest accomplishments. But before we get there, what kind of started you to get outside, strive within health and wellness, whether that's, you could have chosen multiple different things. You could have chose, backpacking, you could have chose baseball, you could have chose all these additional sports, but you chose mountain biking. And you mentioned a story with your dad. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we've always kind of been an outdoorsy family. My dad was really into the Boy Scouts and backpacking and all of that. So he got me plugged into doing a lot of outdoor activities there. And so we did a lot of backpacking. We did like a 60-miler together, which was pretty awesome for back being in middle school and learning what you're made of, basically. That was really fun. And we did a lot of skiing, snowboarding growing up. We didn't really do a lot of team sports. Did more of the outdoorsy type stuff. Didn't really get into mountain biking till about 2012. That's when we started to rent bikes and kind of see what this is all about.
Yeah.
And he kind of got me into all those sports. He still does it pretty avidly. He has multiple bikes for whatever occasion it is.
Yeah.
Could be snow, rain, dirt, whatever. He's really avid into it, and I just kind of followed suit. I wasn't really sure if I was going to like mountain biking when I first started it, because it makes you sweat your brains out. You're just kind of like, is this worth it? When you first start, first 30 minutes, you're like, do I like this? And after a while, you're just kind of like, you realize you're getting a really good workout in, and you're more concerned about just not crashing than you are anything else. So you're like, by the time you're done, you're like, wow, I burned like 1,000 calories, and I was just worried about not dying. So it worked out. It's better than jumping on the treadmill and you just hate your life for 1 mile.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm totally there with you, man. I'm not a huge mountain biker, but I've done it a few times where the climb is just so treacherous. You you start running a bunch of things in your mind, like, why did I sign up for this? Why do I enjoy this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I think it's super cool just to kind of relate to your story. And for, some of the listeners out there, is a lot of the times, you embark on a journey, whether it's mountain biking, whether it's running, whether it's a certain sport, you don't really know what to expect, but you're doing it. And for some reason you're disliking it. You're disliking like the climb and like the accomplishments
Yeah.
you're doing, but slowly you end up seeing improvement and you end up getting good at it. And then you find the joy, which is really cool. And I feel like you did that early on. But really quick, I think it's super cool that your pops, got you involved in like Boy Scouts at a young age. I mean, 60 miles, like that's pretty intense, man. Like that's just not like, walking around the loop trail, which is pretty sweet too. But I mean, 60 miles, you said that was like 8 days, right?
Yeah, it was 8 days. I was back in middle school, and we kind of hit parts of the PCT, and we looped back into like Heart Lake, Lyman Lake, Holden Village, and then we came back on the ferry into Chelan, which is it's a really cool loop, really memorable experience. But that's where I kind of got to see like, what you're made of, even at a young age, which was pretty cool. Yeah, he's really into it. He's quite the trailblazer, and he just gets out there and keeps cranking. He'll take people out for group rides, and he always surprises people. Same with my mom; she gets out there too, and she really cranks. People are always really impressed with both of them and how fit they are. I mean, they're like 60 now, so
wow.
You wouldn't expect it when you get out there and you're like, wow, this guy's all he's all kitted up and everything. He's ready to go, and they're just out there cranking and putting people in their dust.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, we both did. My dad and I both did the Mission Granduro a couple years ago together, and that was like we did the 30-mile segment, and they had a 50-mile segment. But our goal is just to finish because it's a pretty grueling ride. It's up there by Mission Ridge, and it's a race, and they time you and all of that. But we weren't really worried about setting records. We were just worried about getting to the finish line. And I really got to see what my legs were made of, and it was pretty cool to do that with my dad. We got a picture at the end, and that was cool.
Dang, your dad sounds like he's quite the savage and outdoorsman.
Yeah, he's pretty burly.
Man, that's awesome. That's so cool because and for a lot of people, they get introduced into something, a culture early on, right? And it ends up developing into something super cool. And for you, it was just like this 8-day, 60-mile backpacking adventure that you did with Boy Scouts, and he was a part of it, which is super cool. He got you like in the outdoors, got you a little taste. And then now what you end up doing is you end up going mountain biking. And the fact that he did that race with you, like that's pretty, dude, that's pretty impressive, man. That's some really good stuff. So with that, like, can you give us a ballpark as far as like elevation goes on that Mission Granduro?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at my Strava, but I want to say it was like 5,000 feet of elevation gain or more. I know the 50 was like 10,000, so maybe it was right around 7. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it's quite a bit of gain. The climbing out of the Devil's Gulch area was pretty intense. I was just cramping up like crazy. Had to walk certain sections, but yeah, we made it back, and it took all day. And then you're just like so smoked afterwards, you don't want to eat anything, but they're like, here, have some spaghetti or whatever. It's like the last thing you want to eat.
Yeah. What made you want to do like the Mission Granduro, especially with your dad? What was the motivation?
Well, we're pretty plugged in at some of the bike shops, and there's a few bike shops that are trying to get that race to be something that's just really notable in the Pacific Northwest. And it's been going on for a few years now. It's been getting plugged into some of the other race circuits. And so I think it's going to be something pretty popular, pretty well-renowned in the area pretty soon. It's really challenging. They change the course up every year. It could be pretty recognizable for our area if enough people keep it up and keep doing it. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It starts up by Mission Ridge area. They usually, like I say, change the course usually every year, so it's something new. Yeah, it's got something for everybody. It's got downhill sections. It's got the climbs. It's got the length, the elevation gain. yeah, it's pretty intense. I did it I did it a couple years ago, and then last year I was like, I'm sitting out. I don't know. I'm not mentally prepared for that. But my
And
dad went and did it by himself, and it was pretty crazy. He said it was even harder than the year I did it. So I'm
wow.
trying to prepare myself mentally. Like hopefully they'll do it with this whole COVID thing going on, and
Yeah,
I'll be able to get back out there again.
definitely. Well, it looks like the race is like in June or July, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully they'll be able to have it go on, and we'll be able to be spread out enough and socially distant enough on the
Yeah,
trail.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted to give light to something. So, like you were just saying, a 30-mile. I'm just going to paint this picture: a 30-mile long race on a bike with elevation of 5,000 feet. That's a long duration of time. Like that's a long race. That's not just like a 1 hour race. So
Yeah, it's pretty. If you're into like road biking, you can easily go 30 miles, and that's just kind of like a normal ride. But
definitely,
mountain biking is more of you're just getting in your granny gear and just cranking as hard as you can for as long as you can. It kind of reminds me of swimming, like you're just seeing how long you can hold your breath without having to take a break. So
definitely.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things too is so I was thinking about it, and the one thing I can relate it to is just kind of like anytime when you're in a race for that long, it almost feels like life. You got the highs, the lows. Like when you're going up the climbs, you're just like telling yourself, "Hey, I can't stop. I can't stop." And for all those
Yeah,
individuals out there that, I use exercise and events in health and wellness as like metaphors of life. So it's just kind of like all right, when you're going up those hills, like, man, this is the grind mode. Like, this is the part that sucks. I just know I gotta keep grinding. I gotta keep on moving. I can't stop because I'm gonna lose momentum. And then it flattens out, right? It's almost like that breath of fresh air. And then all of a sudden you're like, it's such a relief, right? And then you start
yeah,
going downhill. It's fun and exciting. And then there's moments like that you're in the race and you almost like black out because you're in just like autopilot, right? It's
yeah, yeah,
like almost a state of euphoria where it's like I think everybody can feel those moments when everything in life is going just absolutely great. You're enjoying every little bit of it, like everything's so clear and vivid, but it's almost kind of like you enjoyed it so much it just went like that. Anyways, I just thought that, just because a 30-mile long race, 5,000 feet of elevation, it's like a lifetime of highs and lows and emotions just in one race.
yeah. It's I mean that's kind of mountain biking in a nutshell. Really, is just it's it's a lot of physical, but it's a lot of mental too. I mean, it preps you for other things in life. Really, um, you know, when it gets really challenging, you're mentally prepared to take it on and just adapt and know when to take a break too.
Totally, totally. And one of the things that you mentioned too is before we went live was you had a minor setback, right?
Yeah. So a few years back, started getting into like more of the downhill scene,
Uh-huh.
which was pretty fun. Where you usually go to like you can either go to like some of the trails around here and ride downhill, or just go to like one of the bike parks like Stevens Pass or Whistler, things like that. So we were hitting that pretty regularly. But one of the first parks I went to was Stevens Pass, and I went up there with my wife and a buddy, and it was like I think maybe the third run. I was just like on a blue run, and was just cooking down one of the flats, and then all of a sudden, it it was lights out. Apparently, I just hit some loose gravel and slapped over and cracked my helmet. And I don't recall any of the day, but they were recording me on their cell phones because I was just like pretty out of it. Couldn't tell you what
Wow.
day it was. Apparently, I was really aggressive and belligerent.
So
Apparently, that
severely
happens when you
concussed.
get. Yeah, I was all concussed and whatnot, and I had like crashed and drove a small tree branch through my arm, and apparently I just like yanked that out and just torched the rest of the trail. Went down there, and they were like, "Hey, you know what day it is?" And I kept on saying, "Is my bike okay? Is my bike okay?" Like looking at the bike like every 5 seconds, like very concerned about is the bike okay, not really myself.
You,
Yeah, and I had to ride down in like two different ambulances down to Cascade Medical Center in Leavenworth, and I don't really remember anything until I walked out that evening, um, and we got something to eat at like Fresh Burger, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, oh, wow, this has been a crazy day. I can't remember anything. And it actually took me a couple months to like fully recover. Like at work, people would tell me things and I have to write them down, and try to remember like
Wow.
what they had said. I'm sure if you talk to like Libby or anything like that, she'll be like, oh yeah, I had to repeat myself like 50 times for like the simplest task. But yeah, that's kind of scary. I kind of shook my confidence, not only with biking, but also like pretty avid skier as well. So like going skiing, they said like, oh, well, for at least 6 months, you don't want to hit your head like that, or
Wow.
any type of hitting your head is going to be not good for the healing process. So I was pretty hesitant to like get back out there and be as aggressive as I was.
Yeah.
Um, so I think after about a full year, that's when I started to kind of pick it back up again and get back out there. I still haven't been back to Stevens Pass, so I need to squash that bug still.
Yeah.
But we went to Whistler and I did the whole bike park thing, and that's fine. I just need to go back to Stevens Pass and show who's boss.
Yeah, definitely conquer it, man. That's awesome. So I mean, that sounds like a pretty big injury, especially being that concussed. It like, interfered with work, interfered with your family, interfered with, all your passions and outdoors, like health and wellness. Like, I mean, what was the emotional like stages? Like, how did you kind of like overcome that? Just to kind of give, our listeners some like content, what went through your mind mentally? Like, were you just like, hey, I want to get on the bike ASAP? Or was it this like delayed, like, I don't know if I'm ready for it. Like, I'd hate to get injured, or despite what the doctor said, were you like, hey, I'm just going to keep going?
Yeah, I went right back to it with caution, I
Okay.
would say. I didn't like go back to some of the gnarly trails that are around here where
Mm.
you can easily test your limits.
Yeah.
Um, I was more apt to like walk sections that I knew were kind of sketchy. But yeah, I didn't want to like just totally abandon all sports or
Yeah.
anything like that. I was just like, I knew you kind of know what you're getting into when you start something like that. So
Yeah.
I just kind of got back on it and used more caution than I usually do.
Yeah, and I think
So
that's key is, a lot of people like they experience something bad and they're just like, hey man, I'm going to completely abandon this. Like this is definitely leading me down the path that I don't want to interfere with, family, um, work, or, it's going to limit my abilities to do this. But if it's like such a big part of your life, like I feel like, how could you let that go? Especially something like mountain biking or skiing or doing something that you love doing in the outdoors. That's kind of like the break from everything else, right? Because I feel like
yeah,
everybody kind of needs that break from what goes on, in society, and then like kind of like that breath of fresh air of doing that like run or that mountain bike or hitting the slopes and just hitting euphoria as you're hitting, 40 miles an hour.
yeah. And I think I probably got over it faster because I was concussed and I don't remember any of it. So the fear factor was just not there.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Woke up the next day, I was like, yeah, let's do it again. I
Yeah.
have no
Hey,
idea what happened.
where's my bike? Is it
Yeah,
okay?
where's that bike? Is it okay?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I
like,
would get text messages actually from buddies saying, "Is my bike okay?" Like apparently that's all I would say. That's pretty funny.
that's awesome. Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to touch base on too before we wrap up this interview was I thought that was super cool that your dad got you introduced to the backcountry. Then you got introduced to mountain biking at 2012, which was probably like mid 20s, somewhere around there. And then all of a sudden, like you started picking it up a couple years later, and it's something now that you do with your family, right?
Yeah. We all do it. My mom does it. Dad, sister, um, her fiance, like a lot of buddies of mine. We go ride pretty regularly. My wife and I did it pretty regularly until we had little ones.
Yeah.
Um, we still get out and ride the loop, because we have a bike cart and do that whole thing. But we try to get out. We were going to Whistler and staying up there for a few days, like in the summertime, and having kind of like a family outing, and that's a pretty cool place to be. That's like
For sure.
the outdoorsman's Disneyland, basically. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. But yeah, we all try to stay fit, stay active, because health's really important. So
Awesome, man. That's super cool. And in a sense, I feel like, within your whole family, you guys built this like circle of influence or circle of trust, right? Where it's like you guys are influencing each other by, staying active and mountain biking, where a lot of people get in this rut, especially like right now during COVID-19, like people are getting influenced by like, hey, I'm just gonna go get takeout every day. Or, hey,
yeah,
I'm like let's influence each other, but let's just like sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. So it's really cool that, you know, you as a family man, as a professional, as an entrepreneur, you know, you've like allowed to like grow that within your family and really got to enjoy this as a whole team, because now it's not like an individual sport. It's like the whole team wins, right? And when like the whole team wins and you can see like how much joy it brings to them, like I can only imagine. I'm not a father yet, but that just probably brings joy to you, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Our little one's like almost 3, and she's got a little Strider bike, and it's just really cool to see her go down that path. And we got a little skis for next year, so yeah, we're just gonna be out there and just be an outdoorsy family. So it'll be fun.
That's awesome, man. And I got the last question for you right here. So if someone wants to get into mountain biking, they have no idea, they might own like a bike that they've had for 10 years and it's got, you know, rusty rims and a chain that's, you know, rusting and brakes don't work. Like, what's the easiest way for them to get introduced into like mountain biking or some of your passions?
Yeah, I would just go and check out a local bike shop and ride something that is good. I don't know, I would take out like, you know, the bike you've had in the shed for like 20 years. I would go out there and ride something that's more modern, more new, and just get out there and experience how mountain biking has changed in the last like 5 years alone. I mean, the suspension setups and all of that is just pretty incredible, how they can handle trails, what you can go over on one. And I would just say rent bikes for a year and see, do you like a hardtail? Do you like a full suspension? You'll like a full suspension. Definitely just test it out. Try some group rides, because once you get into one of the crowds, it's just way easier to want to go out and want to get better if you're trying to just keep up with the pack like I was the first couple of years. And yeah, it's just, I would just say demo, and then once you make the commitment, you'll feel good about it.
I like that. I like where you said, you know, make sure that you have the equipment, because the equipment makes it enjoyable. Build the network, because then you have that level of commitment. And then it's just kind of immerse yourself, get outdoors, have fun.
Yeah, these local bike shops are pretty awesome though. I mean, if you walk in there and say, I don't know anything about it and I want to get into it, they're more than happy to help. They have demo programs where you can take a bike out if you're interested in purchasing one, and they'll let you take them out and ride them on the trails briefly. And I mean, don't want you to come right back, but
Yeah.
but they have some pretty awesome equipment that you can take out and explore, and they're very knowledgeable.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. If you guys have any questions for Nick Winters, aka Slow Cheetah, you can reach him at his Instagram. It's just Nick Winters. You can also reach him at pixeldepressed.com or Wenatchee Valley College. My man, thank you for being on the show. Thanks again for joining, everyone. This is Danny Zavala, your host on the Rec Center Podcast, the hottest podcast here in Central Washington, bringing you amazing individuals doing amazing things within health and wellness. We are here every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be sure to like, share, or comment down below, subscribe to our channel, and let's have some fun, baby.